Hello and welcome to lesson number 4 of our full reading course. My name is Ben and I am your instructor. If you've never met me before, let me introduce myself just a little bit. I am a university professor and I write IELTS exams and I administer IELTS exams as an examiner. Okay, so probably the job type that would interest you most for this lesson is the IELTS writer. Because if you've taken my earlier lessons, you can see that I really understand how the question types match up with the passages because I have to write them all the time. Okay, so we can learn some things, I hope, from my experience writing exams. All right. I do want to mention one thing before we continue, and that is the QQ group number down here. Okay. Make sure that if you're not a member of this group yet, that you join. Okay, this is different from the overall QQ group. This is a group specifically and only for those who have purchased the reading recording or have taken my live reading class. Okay, so if you have any questions about any of the material covered in this lesson or any of the previous lessons, make sure to go to that QQ group and ask me anything you want. Anytime. I'm usually around. I check it at least every day, so don't be afraid to ask me whatever questions that you have about reading or about any of the other courses that I offer. All right, well, without any further hesitation, let's get into our lesson today. Okay, I want to do a little review of these terms, intensive reading and extensive reading. Okay, intensive versus extensive. In versus ex. Inside versus outside. Okay? So about 80% of IELTS questions on the reading part are intensive reading questions. Okay, what they're asking you to do is to locate one particular sentence or possibly two sentences together, okay, in the passage, right, and match the meaning with the question set. Okay? Your job there is to find a specific fact in the text. That is what intensive reading is. Okay? It's an intensive skill finding a fact inside the passage. Now, how is that different from extensive reading? Well, it's the opposite, really. Okay? So extensive reading, we want to understand not from the inside, but from the outside. Okay? A good example of this is in multiple choice when you are asked, what is the writer's purpose in passage number, or in paragraph number 3? What is the writer's purpose in paragraph number 3? Now, you can't find the answer to that by searching paragraph 3. You're not meant to search, right? You're meant to understand the function of paragraph 3 within the essay. Totally different level of understanding, a totally different type of understanding, okay? And it requires you to think like the writer, okay? Reading and writing are really closely related, okay? Writers benefit from reading because they see how other writers work. Readers benefit from writing, right? Because the same organization is at play, whether you're writing or reading. Okay? So by thinking like a writer, you're imagining what was going on in the writer's mind. Why did the writer choose to include this information? That's what extensive reading is in a nutshell. Okay? It's a bit of a challenge, and we talked about this earlier, but the challenge stems mainly from the fact that extensive reading is really difficult to test. Okay? Extensive understanding is hard to test. It's also very difficult to teach, and it's difficult to do. Okay, so it's difficult to learn, I should say. So it's difficult to teach, it's difficult to learn, and it's difficult to test. So, if you are writing a test for high school students, most people will skip the extensive skill because it's hard to do. It's hard to write into a test. The IELTS does extensive reading very well. It's one thing that I really love about the IELTS test is they have a very good balance. The extensive reading questions, they're always objectively true. It's not subjective. Okay, it's clear what the answer is. However, it is still a true extensive skill test. Okay? And we'll see in a minute here why I'm explaining so much about extensive reading. Lesson 4, this lesson, it's all about extensive reading. Okay? Now, just to review the different strategies. Intensive reading, we're using mainly a find and match strategy. Question first, find the part of the passage second, and then match them up and figure out the answer. Okay? Find the piece of the passage, match up to solve the question. Okay? Question first, passage second. Right? We use that strategy for any of these question types. Okay, so most of them, as I said, 80% intensive reading. Now, extensive reading, we talked about in lesson 2, a passage first strategy. Reading the passage first and then matching with the question second. Notice the difference there, okay? Find and match was question first. Find it in the passage second. Here, passage first, then match to the question. Okay, it's the opposite order. Very important. With extensive reading, don't start with the question set. That is the biggest mistake that you can make. All right, so we use that for multiple choice, which we studied in lesson 2, and match headings. All right, and that is the topic of our lesson today. Okay, and it is not a coincidence that these two question types are consistently ranked the most difficult for students to solve. Okay? Extensive reading, students always struggle with these questions. Okay, so we're going to spend a whole lesson on just extensive reading as we do matching headings. All right, now to summarize what we've done in the first 3 lessons. Okay, in the first lesson, we studied the find and match strategy for true, false, not given, and yes, no, not given. Very straightforward strategy. Okay, we studied that hard. Whole lesson on that. Lesson 2, we saw that find and match works well for fact questions, but multiple choice is difficult because there are also purpose questions. And for that, we needed our passage first strategy. And that was more of an extensive skill. So the difficulty of multiple choice comes from determining which strategy to use for each question. For example, number 14 might be a fact question. Number 15 is a fact question. But then number 16 is a purpose question. So if you stick with the same strategy for all 3, you're probably going to get question 16 wrong, or you're going to have to guess. Right? So that's the difficulty of multiple choice, is determining which strategy to use. And then in our just prior lesson, okay, the last lesson that we did, lesson 3, we talked about matching information and features. Now we said that find and match is really nice for matching information to the paragraph. Okay, that's a pretty pure intensive skill. Okay, finding and matching. But then when it comes to matching features, okay, matching researchers, matching nationalities, we found that find and match was a little bit inefficient. we were scanning the same parts of the passage again and again and again, right? Looking for those answers. So we found that a different strategy was more effective, the slow scan. Okay, and if you need to review those strategies, I suggest looking back at lesson 3 to see the difference between find and match and slow scan. They're both intensive, but one is more useful for information, the other more useful for features. All right? So today's lesson is going to be sort of going back to lesson 2 to do more detailed work with passage first. Okay? And this is how we're going to tackle passage first questions. All right? Again, we start with the passage. Passage first. Okay? Scan the first paragraph. Okay? Scan the whole paragraph and summarize in 5 or 6 words. Right? You're actually going to write down your summary next to the paragraph. You're going to write 5 or 6 words that summarize the paragraph. And you're going to do that for all of the paragraphs included in the set. Okay? It might be 7, it might be 8, it might be 6. It depends on how many examples they give you. But for all of the paragraphs you need an answer for, you're going to write a summary. This might take some time. Okay? We're talking, it might take like 10 minutes. All right? But that's okay. Because once you have a summary for each one, when we look back to the question set, we should be able to answer very quickly. Okay? So we go passage first, summarize all the paragraphs, then move to the question set and find the heading that matches each one. Okay? Now, very important that we don't look at the headings. Okay? Why? Why do we not start with the question set? Okay? In multiple choice, we do it. In true, false, not given, we do it. We're going to see in lesson 5 that fill in the blank, we also do it. Why is headings different? And here's what the problem is. Here's what the danger is. If we get the heading, normally we would look at the heading and find the keywords. Right? If we have those keywords in our mind, the thing with intensive or the thing with extensive skills, we're not going to see the keywords written in the passage. Okay, those keywords need to match with our processing, our understanding of the passage. Okay? But if the heading says something like agriculture, we are probably not going to see the word agriculture or farming in the passage. Okay? Often the headings are something very abstract, like solutions to a common problem. You're not going to see solutions in the text. You're not going to see the word solutions. You're not going to see the word problems. Okay? But your understanding of one of those paragraphs will include those words. So you need to understand first before you look at the sets. Okay. You'll see what I mean as we practice. If you're at all confused, hang in there. We'll get there in a minute here. Okay, let's get started. Let's take a look at our first example question set. Okay, notice the title here, Air Traffic Control in the USA. All right, and notice that we have no subtitle, which is very common when we're dealing with headings. Subtitle would give us too much knowledge about the style of the text or the overall structure of the passage. Okay, so a test writer is rarely going to give you much in terms of a subtitle or an introduction, because you are supposed to get the structure of the text by checking these paragraphs. Okay, that's part of the skill that we're looking for here. Mm-hmm. Now notice we have our list of headings over here, but we're not going to look at them. Okay, so don't look over there. We're going to block them out. Okay? Remember, passage first. That's our goal. but we should look and see which ones we need to answer. Okay, A, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so we don't need to worry about B. And yep, that's the only one we don't have to worry about. All right, so let's start with A. Do you all remember the strategy? It's passage first, and the real key skill here is summarizing. So let's get to work with that summarizing. Let's start with paragraph A. Okay, remember we need to do paragraphs A through G, and we can skip B. Okay, let's work on it here. So A, take a second and scan through. Okay, we just want to get a summary of this paragraph. Okay, I'm going to just write it right here. Cause of FAA. Let's just start. Start of FAA. Increased safety. All right, moving on to B. Now the reason we do these all together is because you can see the flow from A into B, and that helps you to summarize the next paragraph. Okay, if we take a break each time to go and find the answer, it's not actually going to help us. We're going to lose the flow of the essay. Okay, so stay in the essay. We don't need to do B. Okay, moving on to C. It's 1940s. Scan through. Let's see. Okay, before and after World War II. First jet engine. Okay, so you have kind of before World War II, and then after World War II. And we have the beginning of the jet engine. Okay. Remember, these don't have to be perfect. Just your best effort is enough. Okay. Moving on to D. And if you need to pause the recording and try on your own, please do. Okay. To me, some people think it's very simple, looks to be very complex. Okay, all of these details, okay, airspace over the United States, different kinds of planes, different purposes, you try not to get bogged down in the details. Look for the purpose within the whole passage. What is this paragraph doing, right? It's telling us what is the job of the ATC. It's very complicated, okay? To meet this challenge, you can see complex, the challenge. All right. So to meet this challenge, let's see. Following elements. We can get just a basic idea of what the elements are. See kind of the difference between controlled airspace and uncontrolled airspace. Looks like that's Okay, looks like that is what we're looking for there. It's a good summary. Okay, F. Let's take a look here. Two types of environments. We had VFR and IFR. What are they about? Looks like VFR is kind of visual and IFR is other information. Okay, so we have VFR R versus IFR, but we don't really know what that means. So it's something about visual versus other information. Okay. We're looking at two types of operating environments, VFR, IFR. All right, now G. Okay, it's a lot of information here. We want to try to scan it quickly. So look, we've got these different classes that are mentioned here, right? Okay, different types of controlled airspace. Okay. Whew. Okay. So we now have a summary for each one that we need to match. All right. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh my God, how did you summarize it so quickly? Right? I am pretty fast at summarizing, and the things that are going through my head are trying to imagine where the writer is going next. Okay, trying to think what is the writer going to want to say about this topic? Okay, you have to start to think like air traffic control in the USA. They need to cover sort of the history of air traffic control, and now tell us what different things are considered when you think about air traffic control. Okay. Okay, and we should be able to break that up. This looks like there's a lot of dates in it. 1930s, 1920s, 1940s. And now we have the ATC is quite complex, and this tells us how it is complex. Okay, we've got, okay, first of all, this element, okay, controlled versus uncontrolled, and then another element, okay, different operating environments. So for pilots, different rules, VFR, IFR. Okay, and also, we've got different types of controlled airspace. All of this is telling us, is supporting this idea. The ATC is very complex. In what ways? A, B, and C. Those three ways. Right? So if you struggled with this task of summarizing, you need to practice it. Okay? That's the bottom line. There are very few shortcuts when it comes to summarizing. Now, normally, when you're writing, you think, okay, the first sentence should be a topic sentence, right? That should tell us all about the paragraph. However, the test writer knows this. Okay? As a test writer, if I know that I'm writing a headings matching section, I'm going to be very careful not to say too much in the first sentence. Okay? I don't want to reveal the topic in the first sentence. Okay? Because it would be too easy, honestly. Okay? If all you have to do is match one sentence with the headings, that is an intensive skill. We want to make sure to test your extensive ability. So you're going to have to look beyond the topic sentence, beyond the first sentence of the passage or the paragraph. You need to learn to scan over the text quickly and find a few words to summarize it. Okay? Now, if you fail the first time, it's okay. All right, at least you'll get a few of the answers right, and then you'll have a more limited list of choices, okay? It'll be easier to guess. So, remember, this whole process should take 10 minutes. 10 minutes maximum, okay? So if you're practicing, set a timer for 10 minutes and try to do it within that time limit, okay? Now we have all of our summaries ready. We're going to match each summary with one of these headings. Okay? So let's start with the first one. Start of FAA, increased safety. Start of FAA, increased safety. Anything? I see FAA here. Start of FAA. I don't really see it. Let's skip this one for now. Skip paragraph A for now. The key here is don't panic, okay? Don't panic, because once our options are more limited, we'll more easily find it, okay? So skip that for now. Oh, we know that paragraph B is X. Okay, so we can remove this option. Now let's look at C. Before and after World War II, first jet engine. Before and after World War II, first jet engine. Okay, we know it's not going to be this one, right? Aviation disaster? No, I don't see anything about a disaster. This one is very general, so we don't know yet. Altitude zones? Nope. Oversimplified view? No, I didn't see anything there. Controlling pilots' licenses? Nope, I don't see anything there. Airspace categories? No. Setting rules to weather conditions? Nope. Taking off safely? Maybe, I don't think it was there. Two coincidental developments looks possible. Okay? But let's see if we can find that idea in here. Two developments. Radar and technology, or radar and radio communication, and we have advent of the jet engine. Okay, so this was one of the developments. We didn't catch the first one. Newly developed radar and radio communication. Right? But once we limited our options, then we were able to find, this one doesn't look right, this one looks probable. Okay? So our answer for C is 3. Okay? Narrow down your options, it helps a lot. Now, moving on to, okay, so that was C. Just keep our highlighting here. Now, moving on to D. ATC is not so simple, very complex. I think this one should be really easy to find. An oversimplified view. Not so simple, actually very complex. That's exactly what this means. People think that it is very simple, but it is not. Okay? So D is going to be 5. All right? All right, so if we move on to paragraph E, controlled versus uncontrolled airspace, let's see if we can find that in here. Okay, I see airspace categories, and I see altitude zones. Okay, I think both of these fit in some way. Okay, so let's set up this as number 4 or number 7. because I think there's another paragraph here. I think paragraph G is also related to categories or zones. So let's see which one fits the altitude idea best. Okay, so let's wait on that one for a moment. Okay, we'll come back to it. But now look at F. VFR versus IFR, visual versus other info. Okay, is it about disobeying? No. About a disaster? No. Altitude zones? No. Categories? No. Controlling pilots' licenses? Well, I see a license here, but I don't think that's the general idea, okay? Remember, this is not intensive. We need to look at the overall idea. Okay, we've got visual versus other info. What is that related to? To me, weather conditions is related. And if we look here, meteorological conditions. It's a hard word to say. Meteorological. Meteorological? Anyway. Yeah, so we see weather mentioned a couple times in here, right? So I think it looks like setting rules to weather conditions is going to be our best answer. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, moving on to G. Remember, G is going to be either 4 or 7. We need to decide E or G. So types of controlled airspace. Now we need to look at which one is about altitude. Okay, airspace categories or altitude. Okay, so look through. I notice quite a few altitude markers above 5,490, higher altitudes. But here we've got the vicinity of airports. All right, so once we look closely, it looks like a couple of these classes are related to altitude, but not all of them. Right? D, C, and B, those are all about the vicinity of airports. Okay, so we need to look overall. To me, number 4, setting altitude zones, is not going to match with this paragraph. I think this is going to be defining airspace categories. Okay, so we'll set that as the answer to G, which means paragraph E should be setting altitude zones. Okay, so let's see, controlled, uncontrolled. If we look at what the difference is, it is all related to altitude. Okay, and that's the big difference between paragraph E and paragraph G. Paragraph E, uncontrolled versus controlled, that is all related to altitude. In paragraph G, we have all these different categories, and many of them are not related to altitude at all. All right, so we're almost finished here. We just need to check out paragraph A again. And now we have much fewer options, okay? So we only have 1, 2, 6, 8, and 9. All right? So read through this again, see if there's anything we kind of missed. Disobeying FAA regulations? Disobeying? Nope, I don't see that. Aviation disaster. Do we see anything about aviation disaster? Right at the beginning, I see an accident that occurred in the skies over the Grand Canyon resulted in the establishment of the FAA. So the start of the FAA, okay, we actually have the reason that the FAA started. and that was this aviation disaster. Okay, so we kind of missed that in our summary, but by skipping it and coming back, we were able to answer it very quickly. Okay, so paragraph A, the answer is 2. All right. So that should do it for this passage. Next, we can move on to our second example. So we start by summarizing our paragraphs, and then we check into our headings to match. Okay? All right, well, let's see. We need to do paragraphs B, D, E, and F, and it looks like that's it. B, D, E, F. Answer choice 5 is already finished, so we can get rid of that. And answer choice 8 is also finished. Okay, those have been taken by paragraph A and C. And it actually helps us a little bit to see paragraph A, people have always responded to climate change. Knowing that, we might get a little bit of help understanding paragraph B. Okay. So people have always responded to climate change. Okay, we have Little Ice Age is our topic. Okay. Now, let's take a look at this paragraph B and see if we can come up with a summary. Okay, now we're going to notice this keyword here. Okay, as a way of connecting our first main idea to our second main idea here, exactly as you would do in writing. Okay, so it looks like Little Ice Age. Okay, we're going to use this Little Ice Age. Cold plus climate shifts. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Here, super cold. Okay, and then all these climate shifts. Okay, cold winters, heavy spring. Okay, climate changes. And we're going to see, we know already, is how past climatic conditions can be determined. Okay, but we need to move on to D. D is a nice short paragraph, okay? Part 1 describes the middle warm period. It's like most of this is about part 1, right? Describing the middle warm period. Because even though our first sentence is about a book, I think the main thrust of the paragraph is about part 1 of book, medieval warm period. Okay. Part E, we have a long paragraph here. Okay, if we scan through it quickly, we see a few different nationalities. We've got a few different dates as well, so it looks like kind of a history. Looks like the beginning of the Little Ice Age started in 1200. And all of this is about its kind of effects, it looks like. So let's do history and effects. If you have a hard time seeing that, you need more practice, okay? Looking through, usually a paragraph is split into 2 pieces, okay? Possibly 3 pieces. Just like in your writing, you split things into 1 or 2 or 3 pieces. So noticing keywords that connect the idea, those cohesive devices that you use in your writing are also going to be used in reading, okay? And that's what I'm talking about, the connection between reading and writing, okay? Use the skills you practice in writing to help you recognize the structures in reading. All right, and if we look at F, let's see. After 1850, beginning of the modern warm period. Okay, this looks like stuff about the modern warm period until now. And it's all about temperatures rising, it looks like. Global temperatures rising, okay. Last 150 years. Modern warm period, temperatures rising. Okay. All right, so this is pretty much our essay as a whole. What is the Little Ice Age? Let's see, predicting climate changes? No. The relevance of the Little Ice Age today? No, maybe. It doesn't really match our summary, though. How cities contribute to climate change? No. Human impact on the climate? Human impact? I don't think so. I don't see any human impact here. Growing need for weather records? I don't think so, no. Study covering 1,000 years. 1,000 years? 1,300 until middle of the 19th century? No. Enough food at last? Food? I don't remember anything about food. All right, now we're not seeing any direct matches here. Okay, so don't panic. All right, we ruled out a few, but there was a couple that were a little hazy. Let's move on to D, and we'll come back. Okay, don't panic if the summaries don't match perfectly. You just need to narrow down your list. Okay, D. Part 1 of the book, Medieval Warm Period. Okay. Let's see. Definitely not B. Predicting climate changes? No. Cities? I don't think so. Human impact? No, I don't think so. Growing need for weather records? Nope, I don't see that. Study covering 1,000 years? Oh, here we go. Yeah. Narrative history of climatic shifts during the past 10 centuries. 10 centuries. 1,000 years. Okay. Good work. So, we know that 7 is covered. Good. Moving on to E. History and effects of the Little Ice Age. Okay, history and effects. Match up with predicting climate changes? No, I don't think so. It doesn't seem to match. Relevance today? No, we're talking about the history and the effects, right? How cities contribute to climate change. Is this related to cities? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Human impact on the climate? Doesn't look like this is human impact, no. This is more how people reacted to it, I think. Growing need for weather records? I don't see it there. Enough food at last. Maybe this is one of our effects. Okay, so maybe this paragraph is related to how we got food because of these changes. And I notice here food supplies. I notice dried cod, herring, European fish trade, food supplies. Yeah. Yep. Looks like it. Looks like this is how we adapted and were able to get food because of this. So this idea, effects of the Little Ice Age, leads us to number 9 as our answer. All right, we're narrowing it down. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Now, last 150 years, modern warm period, temperatures rising. I'm thinking maybe human impact? Maybe cities? Okay, just the idea of the modern warm period. I imagine cities and I imagine humans having more of an impact. Okay, I don't really see much about cities. However, do we have human impact? Land clearance, farming methods, migration from Europe. Yeah, looks like it. Cutting down forest and woodlands, humanly caused global warming, fossil fuels. Yeah, all this is about the human impact. Okay. Yep. So this idea where we see last 150 years, okay, that leads us to either 4 or 3. And just with a quick scan, we were able to identify 4 as the correct answer. Okay, so now we are back to paragraph B. Okay, so let's see. Cities, definitely not. I mean, this was 1300. I don't think cities have anything to do with it. Growing need for weather records? Just scanning through, I don't see... It doesn't seem to really match. It's the definition of what the Little Ice Age is. I don't understand why weather records would come into it. This one intrigues me, the relevance of the Little Ice Age today. So let's see if we can find anything about today in here. And I see help shape the modern world. They are a deeply important context for the current unprecedented global warming. Okay. So this paragraph, by describing the Little Ice Age, what we're trying to do there is to explain why the Little Ice Age is important. Okay? That's the kind of the writer's intention with this paragraph. And that's why we have number 2 as our answer. Okay? So, it's not easy, but it's possible. Okay? The key thing is to start by giving a short summary of each one. Okay? Without that summary, you're really kind of lost. It takes a lot of skimming and scanning to be able to figure out your answer because you have so many options. The summary allows you to narrow the options to just a couple, and then a quick scan should confirm your instincts about what the answer is. Okay, folks, we are on to our last example. Final example. Nice long one here. Okay, we've got 11 answer choices. And A through I, we're doing all of these. Okay, I adapted this a little bit to give us extra practice. No examples. We have to do them all. All right, so A through I, that is every paragraph in here. Notice the paragraphs are somewhat shorter than the other ones were, so maybe that will help us out a little. Okay, so let's start with paragraph A. Remember, we're looking to summarize here. Ooh, Nice. The writer gave us a little subtitle, okay? So, European transport systems, we know it's the history of them. What have been the trends, and what are the prospects for European transport systems? Okay? So, history and future. Right? That helps us a lot. Now we know how the essay is organized in general. Okay? So, let's look through and see if we can give quick summaries for each one. All right. Take a look at part A. Okay, I see two key factors behind some kind of trend. And the trend is increased demand for transport. And then we've got two factors, right? So more transport needed. And the two factors, a little longer summary here. What are the factors? More car use and oh, that's only one of them. Okay. So one factor is more car use. Okay. Now we can imagine the next factor will be here. Okay, and we have goods transport. Second factor is economic changes, economic and production changes in Europe. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm scanning through the beginning and see if we can get a topic sentence. And then we want to see, looking through the rest, are these supporting our topic sentence? Or is there a big transition like in addition or however or despite, something like that. So we want to look for some kind of transition word here. I don't see one. I think all of these are supporting this main idea. Okay? So this main idea is going to be what we want to summarize here. Okay? So again, using your knowledge of paragraph structure that you get from your writing to understand quickly the reading. Okay, let's try the same thing here, taking a look at the kind of first sentence. The strong economic growth expected in countries which are candidates for entry to the EU will also increase transport flows, in particular road haulage traffic. And now if you look at the rest of this paragraph, I don't see any huge transitions. I see 3 sentences with a lot of data and statistics, all of which seem to support this first point. Okay? So here we've got, the key thing is the candidates for entry to the EU. So the not yet EU countries lead to road haulage traffic. Not exactly sure what that means, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, as long as we catch kind of summary ideas. Okay, now in D, we've got a big however. Okay. All right, so we've got, what's going on so far in the essay? We've got more transport needed for a few different reasons, right? Now we've got a big however here. We've got a new imperative offers an opportunity for adapting the policy. Okay, and I also see that it can only be done by 2020. So this idea is the timeline, right? So what is the objective and what is the timeline? Okay, by 2040 looks like is the end. So let's do new goal for adapting transport policy by 2040. All right. E, 1998. It looks like we're not really starting with a topic sentence, but we do get our idea here, which is greenhouse gas, CO2 emissions. Looks like a lot about CO2 emissions. And we have this conclusion here, right? Using alternative fuels and improving energy efficiency is thus both an ecological necessity and a technical challenge. Okay? So, change necessary because of CO2 plus tech challenge. Okay? Now you might be tempted right now, you might be tempted to check out your answers and try to find a match. Don't do it yet. Okay? Seriously, stay with the flow. Okay? The better we're into the flow, the more easily we can find the next summary. Okay? So right now we're into a good flow here. We've got, okay, what are the factors that make this more transport necessary? Okay, but we need to change it, right? We have a new goal to change the transport policy. Why? Well, CO2, huge problem, right? Very challenging. Now, continue. At the same time, okay, also, we need a modal shift. Modal shift? What the heck is that? Huh. A modal shift. Shift in modes. Well, we're talking about rail freight is down only 8%. International goods trains not moving fast. Okay, well, modal shift. Trains not doing well, let's just say. Okay, and notice big giant clue right here. Okay, 3 possible options have emerged. Okay, so we have 3 approaches. Approach number 1. What is it? Solely through pricing. Okay, and all of this is explaining the pros and cons of that. Okay? So just use your kind of logical ability. They're going to mention an approach, and then they're going to mention why it's good and why it might be bad. Okay? So this stuff is not going to be part of the summary. Each one, we just need to know what is the approach. Approach 2, pricing, okay, but accompanied by measures to increase the efficiency of other modes. Okay, so we got pricing plus improve other modes. Third approach. Approach 3 is what? A series of measures from pricing to revitalizing alternative modes and targeting investment in the trans-European network. Okay, pricing. So it's basically number 2 plus investment in Trans-Euro network. Okay. Only pricing, pricing plus plus, basically, is what we have here. Right? So knowing that, matching to our headings should be very quick. Okay, so let's see if we can do it. More transport needed. Factor 1, more car use. No. Oh, growth, more car use, growth of private transport. Hey, we found it. Okay. Yeah, was it talking about private transport? Passenger transport, yeah. Okay, good. So A is 8. Good. B, second factor, economic and production changes in Europe. Economic and production changes? I see changes here. Is it affecting the distances goods may be transported? Oh, I see relocation of some industries. Production site is hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away. Okay, so changes led us to this, and we were able to quickly scan and make sure that it's about distances. So, good. 4. Okay. Paragraph C. Not yet EU countries, road haulage traffic. Not yet. You see EU? Transport trends in countries awaiting EU admission. Not yet EU, awaiting EU admission. Bingo. Nice work. Okay, see how quickly we can do this if we understand the passage really well. Okay, I think when we did this one, we understood the passage a little bit better than the Little Ice Age. The Little Ice Age was a little harder for us to catch the flow. The smaller paragraphs helped us a little bit too. Now D, new goal for adapting transport policy by 2040. Here we go. A fresh and important long-term goal. That's perfect. Good. Very nice. Change necessary because of CO2 and tech challenge. Well, environmental. Yeah, this seems to match up. Energy consumption in the transport sector. And they talk all about CO2, alternative fuels, CO2 emissions. Yep. Five is right. How about F? We need a modal shift. Trains are not doing well. Need a modal shift. Trains not doing well. Okay. Escalating cost of rail transport. I don't see cost here. What about the need? Need. Here we go. Need modal shift. Need to achieve transport rebalance. Is rebalance what we're looking for? That's a hard paraphrasing, okay? So we need to think overall, what is the goal here? Is it to rebalance? Rebalance transport? We might be unsure, so let's come back to that one. Let's put in 6 tentatively, but keep a question mark there. Moving on to G, we've got 3 approaches, right? The first one is only pricing. Here we go. Charging policies alone. All right. H, pricing plus improve the other modes. Here we go. 1, charging for roads and improving other transport methods. And finally, I. All of those things plus investment in a trans-Euro network. Major road networks? Well, trans-Euro network, but it seems like it's more than just that. No. Here we go. All the steps necessary. Yeah. So in other words, doing everything possible. All right, so that leaves us with 6, 9, or 10 for paragraph F. We talked about the cost was not really the issue. Plans to develop major road networks? Definitely not. So 6 must be right, which was our instinct told us 6 anyway. But good. Okay, and there you have it. Okay? This is our third example, and here are our answers. Okay, if you're comparing this up with the Cambridge, I did change around the order a little bit just to give us even more practice. So if the answers don't line up, yeah, check again, because they might be the wrong numbers, but they're the right answers if you consider where the headings are. Okay, now let's look back for a minute, and I just want to mention one more thing before we wrap up this lesson. All right, now before we conclude, I did want to mention a couple things about practicing summarizing. All right, as much as I tell you that, use the skills and experience that you have with writing to help you understand the structure of each paragraph, you're going to need a lot of reading practice to get good at this. Okay? But what I want to tell you is you don't have to practice summarizing only with IELTS materials. In fact, you don't have to practice with only English materials. Okay? If your first language is Chinese, read a magazine and summarize each paragraph in just a few words. Okay? Read an essay in your own language and summarize in your own language a few words. Okay? This is not only an English skill. Okay, what they're testing you here is on your reading skills. And reading skills cover all languages. Okay, so if you're struggling with this skill and it's a combination of, vocabulary problems and also, logical or kind of skill problems, like you're having trouble understanding the structure of the essay, try it in your own language for a while first, okay, and then switch over to English. I think you'll find that you're getting better at it, okay? Summarizing takes practice, so grab a magazine, write 5 words to summarize each paragraph, okay? That's what I would suggest. The best way to practice summarizing. Start in your own language, switch over to English when you're ready, okay? So I hope this strategy has been beneficial for you. Okay, no matter what, start with the passage first before you read the headings. Okay? All right, guys, stay tuned for the next lesson, and the next lesson will be our final lesson, so I hope you're ready. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.